Welcome to Psyched Up Cinema. Where film and psychology meet. With my background in psychology, criminal justice, and social work, and John's background in film production, it makes for one interesting show. Join us as we combine our interests to examine psychological topics and how movies use them really well. Or really poorly. Prepare to be psyched up.
All right, we're recording, so you wanna open up with the whistle? Want to try one more time? You sure you're doing it right?
Is it wrong?
I think it sounds more like this.
Oh my God, stop! I was wondering why you were pushing so hard for me to do the fucking whistle, just for you to break that out. Unbelievable. I don't know if I'm disappointed or proud.
All scripted or unscripted. For context, I kept telling her, you should do the whistle. You should do the whistle. I can't whistle, so I haven't had to play the song.
The nerve of you to use me as the butt of your joke. Unbelievable.
Welcome back, everyone, to a very groundbreaking episode of Psyched Up Cinema.
Nobody's ever talked about this movie before. It's a brand new movie.
It's kind of underground. I don't think anyone's really heard of it. It's in a series that not many people have heard of.
Super indie type shit.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't think it made a ton of money. So
No.
We are talking about the Hunger Games. Is it Catching Fire or
Catching
The
Fire?
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure there was a the in front of it.
The second movie in the series. Well, third if you count the prequel, I guess.
Well, I'm gonna count it as the second. I think it's gonna be the second one. That's how my rule book works.
Fair enough. We'll follow your rules.
I know it's my rules. I'm the movie person. I follow your psychology rules. You follow my movie.
I'm just a dumbass over here. Big movie guy over here.
But yeah, we're gonna talk about Catching Fire, and what are we talking about?
We are talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD.
Nice. Very original. No one's ever talked about this topic. We're really doing an underground episode here.
Yep.
But you know the drill. We are gonna talk about some of the making fun facts of the movie, and then we'll talk about what we like, and then we'll talk about PTSD, and then how it applies to the movie, just like we do every week so far.
We haven't exactly been good about the summarizing the movie part.
Oh,
though.
yeah. I forgot to mention this. Last episode on Nightmare on Elm Street, we're going to try to talk about this in chronological order.
Did we not?
Dropped it immediately. We started off right. We're like, we like the build up to this. That's it. That was it. No more chronological.
We talked about the end, towards the end at least.
Yeah, we did, I guess.
The middle section.
And then everything else just says, woo, 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 woo. But anyways, so
That's okay. Progress.
We are not going to talk about this in chronological order, probably.
Yeah, we're not going to make any promises we can't keep.
Watch, we're going to talk about this scene by scene chronological order. Anyways, you know what time it is? Fun fact time.
Oh boy.
This movie was directed by Francis Lawrence. He directed I Am Legend and every single Hunger Games since this one.
Whoa. Even the prequel?
Yep. He did the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Yep.
Okay. That's a weird title. Anyways, it stars Jennifer Lawrence and Whistle's own Josh Hutcherson from the Five Nights at Freddy's movie.
Made popular by the FNAF movie. He got discovered in the FNAF movie.
Yeah, no one ever heard of him.
That was his first breakthrough film.
Story based on the novel series by the same name, written by Suzanne Collins. And the synopsis is Katniss Everdeen and Peeta Mellark become targets of the Capitol after their victory in the 74th Hunger Games sparks a rebellion in the districts of Panam. I'm gonna be really struggling with these names this episode. Everyone has the weirdest name.
It's all right. I won't hesitate to correct you.
I'll just say the guy, and then you'll know who I'm talking. It released November 22nd, 2012, and the movie was received really well. Some people saying this is the best movie in the series. I don't really have an opinion on it because I've only seen 3 of them. So
I think I can agree with that. I'd say it's probably the one that I've rewatched the most.
it's pretty solid. I mean, I liked it. Uh,
Oh, by the way, if you're listening to this episode, you might want to have the context of the first movie. Just saying. Just putting that
yeah,
out.
just watch one of those Minecraft Hunger Games videos, and then you'll know exactly
Same
what we're
thing.
talking about. Just make sure they're not a pedophile or something like that.
What? Oh, yeah, it's hard to find that in the Minecraft community.
Money time! I also did put in the ching noise last week, so that is in there, and
Thank
it will
you.
be reoccurring.
Very important.
The budget was between 130 to 140 million, and it
Okay.
made 865 million worldwide.
That's a more reasonable range of budget.
Yes, it is. Not the madness. That's going to be the one I always refer back to. And this is actually a lot of fucking money because this was setting the then record for the biggest November opening weekend and the biggest Thanksgiving period box office totals.
Mm,
I did not realize how much money this movie made.
that's a fuckload of money.
It is a lot of money.
Suzanne Collins is living large. She must be.
Yeah. Better than J.K. Rowling, so.
Yeah.
Fun facts. I only have one. I didn't really care to find out where it was made because it was probably made on a soundstage, and
Yeah, probably.
so it's just like whatever. This was the fun fact I didn't want to spoil. The first teaser trailer was released with a movie that was its sequel. Do you want to guess what movie the teaser trailer for this movie released with? Now, keep in context, this is 2012. This is also a sequel to a popular book franchise.
So what teaser trailer came out at the same time? Is that what you're asking?
No, what movie did this teaser trailer show in front of? So you went to go see this movie and the teaser trailer
Was it
for
a
Hunger
Harry Potter movie?
Nope, but you're on sort of the right track.
Divergent?
A little bit younger. The movies aren't really considered to be that good.
Maze Runner?
It's kind of.
I'm thinking
It's
of
kind
all
of-
the like dystopian.
It's not dystopian.
YA
It's kind of
films.
sexy.
Oh, 50 Shades of Grey.
Ooh, what was that inspired by?
Oh, Twilight.
Ding, 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 ding. The Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 2. Why? I don't know. It seems like such a weird movie besides it was a book.
Yeah, probably the same target audience.
Yeah, probably. It revealed the official logo and the tagline of the movie, which I do not remember. It was something about sparking a rebellion or some shit like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds about right.
But yeah, those are the fun facts. Now you know that this movie, teasered in front of Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 2. Which, isn't that the last movie?
I think so. I still have not watched a full Twilight film.
I thought we
Ever.
watched the first one.
Part of it. I
We
don't
watched
think
part.
I ever watched the full movie.
Well, I'm sure you'll live.
Sorry, I'm uncultured.
I think you'll be okay.
That's how I feel. I
Yeah,
think I can live without it.
I think you're fine. You'll probably end up seeing it one day.
I'm sure I will. Against my will, probably.
Probably. Should we talk about the movie? What we like, what we don't like?
Let's go.
let's go. This is your pick. So why did you pick this movie?
I picked this movie because I think that it is a good portrayal of PTSD symptoms and how it can manifest. And it shows basically all of the hallmark symptoms in a visual way so you can see what it looks like in context.
Yeah. I don't know much about that, so we're both going to be getting enlightened this. Well, both me and the audience will be getting enlightened this week. I know a little bit, but I don't know too much. I know the general thing of what PTSD is, just not maybe some of the symptoms. So we'll hop into that.
I want to, before I get into the section, loop back to what you do know about it.
So, what is your history with this movie? I remember seeing the first one in 5th grade. I remember there was a lot of drama with it because it was sort of inappropriate, and it was like parents were like, "Why are we taking 5th graders to this?"
Oh no, there was kissing.
Well, I think it might be about the murder.
No,
Potentially.
no.
Never happened.
No.
Well, considering I lived in a state with stand your ground laws, I don't really think they should have cared.
Yeah, when they're publicizing that on the news and framing it as being okay, I don't think fictional child death is that bad in comparison.
I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen the first one, so I don't really have much of an opinion on it.
Well, I think the part that was probably most viewed as inappropriate is Rue dying, how young she was,
Mhm.
and how traumatic that was. I can understand that.
Yeah. But oh well. It's a movie. It's not real. It's make believe. Um
Do we have to tell that story now?
we're on Haunted Mansion. We're in Disney World. And this kid was like crying because he was scared. And also the ride was broken down because Haunted Mansion breaks down every fucking time I go
Oh
on
my
it.
god. We had it break down the middle of us being on it like 5 times within the same ride, but we were stuck in the queue, the darkest part of the queue for like 20 minutes, and this poor kid was just bawling his eyes out, and kids in packs were getting escorted out because they were just so upset at how dark it was and spooky atmosphere. And this mom really thought the most appropriate way to handle her toddler being scared is to go, "It's not real. It's make believe."
Oh man, that's
Cured. Immediately
You've
cured. I'm
my
not scared
illness.
anymore. Now that I know it's make believe, I'm not scared anymore. Thank
That's-
you.
We're gonna discover that's the cure to PTSD at the end of this episode. So,
Huh?
we're gonna discover that's the cure to PTSD at the end
Yeah,
of this
just
episode.
remind yourself it's not real. It's all in your head.
Yep, and then
That
you'll be
fixes
cured.
everything. Positive mindset.
Live,
Just think
laugh, love.
happy thoughts.
Anyways, so yeah, what is your history with this movie? I think you like the series a lot more than I do.
So funny enough, it was very popular when I was in elementary school, middle school, and I had never read any of the books, watched any of the movies, and then on the summer reading list that year was Mockingjay Part 1, or like the whole book.
The
no,
Mockingjay.
the book. No, not the movie.
movie's
Just
only in
shut
part
up.
1.
Anyway, Mockingjay was on the reading list, and I had heard good things about the series, so I was like, fuck it. I'll just read the book. I had no idea what was going on the whole time. I was like, who's Finnick? Who's Peeta? Who's Katniss? Why do they all have dumb names?
You have dumb names.
So I was confused, but I enjoyed the storyline. I wanted more of a background, but being a kid that was not very into reading, I decided to just wait and watch the movies on my own time. So to give myself more context for the book, when I realized how confused I was, I watched the movies and then sort of skimmed the rest of the book and went with that.
Yeah, while you were doing that, I was reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid, so
Only the yellow one.
only the yellow one, which is Dog Days. Well, actually, I think Cabin Fever might have been out at that point, which is the 6th book. So
I've never read a single Diary of a Wimpy Kid book.
what?
Not one,
Oh
ever.
my god!
I was reading above my grade level.
I'm still reading below my grade level. That's what you get when you're a film major. So
You're calling film majors illiterate?
no, that's not true. The writing ones are smart. Everyone else is stupid. Just kidding.
How nice of you.
At least the ones with the school I went to. Anyways,
Are you even a film major if you're not self-loathing?
that's true. And I have to be top 10 most self-loathing people. Anyways, so what do you like about this movie? Since you kind of discovered this franchise.
I think as a kid I was always into the more like dystopian YA books. If I was to read, those were the books that I would read. And movies. I think it's just interesting to me to see alternative universes with different rules and things going on, and I don't know, separating myself from reality.
I mean, I like these movies. I kind of put them in the same vein as like Divergent and like Maze Runner. They're like it's like
Don't go
they
there.
all come from the same thing.
No, no,
They
no,
was-
no, 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 no.
Okay.
Stop it right there.
I need to clarify that these movies are definitely better than those, but they
Okay.
all come from like the same background.
The first Divergent movie, it was all right. The rest of the franchise fucking sucks. So don't even go there with comparing Hunger Games to Divergent. Because I get that the concept is kind of similar with the dystopian vibe shit, but totally different with how it plays out.
That's what I mean though, because like they're similar to like it's a dystopian future and these young people are gonna overthrow it. So that's why I'm like they all come from like the same background and these books were all popular at the same time. And the reason why they made these movies is because one, Hunger Games was popular, and two, Harry Potter was kicking ass. So everyone was like, we need a young adult novel movie series. And they made everything.
Yeah. Well, you know what else I had to read during that same time period was The Giver. And that's kind of similar.
Is that like the person that is supposed to leave the bubble? Like one person is chosen to leave the
He's not
bubble?
supposed to leave, but he does. But he's supposed to carry all the memories that were taken away from people. But he ends up leaving, which then gives everyone those memories back. Because he was like the chosen memory holder. So nobody else could see color or feel pain or feel happiness. Everyone was just kind of a zombie. And then when he left, they all got those memories back.
Okay. I think I remember reading that, but I can't tell you a single goddamn thing about it besides he left the bubble.
I distinctly remember the main character. I want to say his name was Jonas. He had a dream about wanting to bathe his female friend, and then he had to take these anti-wet dream pills.
Okay.
I just remember reading that as a child and being like, what the fuck?
What's a wet dream?
Who dreams of bathing their friend? That's so weird.
We gotta stay on track. We are going way too far off this episode.
Anyway.
So, what do you like about this movie? What personally do you like about this?
That's a great question.
You don't know why you like this movie?
I'm thinking.
Okay, well, I can talk about what I like in it.
Okay.
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 I think, like I said, I haven't seen the first one in a very long time. So that movie in my memory is just kind of whatever because I don't remember a single damn thing about it besides like the
You don't remember Rue dying?
no, I don't. I don't. I
What's wrong
genuinely
with you?
don't.
That was like a huge internet controversy, you know,
I think I remember that, but
because they casted a black actress
oh
and people
yeah.
were like, I just can't sympathize with her because I imagined her as this perfect little white girl and I just can't feel bad for the little black girl being slaughtered. Like, what's wrong with you people?
When the race changes on the little girl, I no longer have
Suddenly,
sympathy. It's like
I don't
stupid.
give a shit that a little child was murdered because she doesn't look like me.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, that
I
was
think I
a
remember
big
that.
thing.
Did she have a skin color in the book or
Yeah,
like
she was white
oh, okay.
because in the book they made it a big deal that she looked like Katniss's sister, and that's why she wanted to protect her. But they're like, she looks nothing like Prim, so I don't care. I don't feel bad when she dies. Like, what?
Well, I think the point is still there that it's like she's
a
protecting
little
a little
innocent child.
girl. Yeah. Oh man. Anyways, but yeah, I don't remember anything about that movie. I remember the I Volunteers tribute scene, but if you put any other scene in front of me, I don't remember that movie.
We're gonna have to change that.
So coming into this, I was just kind of like, whatever. I kind of knew everything. I had like a couple questions, but I feel like the movie is pretty good at being like, this is what happened in the first one. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. So I feel like this movie, when the games are happening, I was like, something feels different. And I'm like, I like it more. Like, I feel like the games are more engaging. And it was even a certain point I was like, don't they have to like kill each other at the end? And you were like, yeah. And I'm like, how's that gonna work? There's like 20 minutes left. And I'm like, how is that gonna work? So, but like, I just feel like the stuff that happens in this is more interesting. I
I would
remember the
agree.
dogs in the first one, but like
Yeah.
the twist with like the clock, I'm like, oh, that's cool. And it's like, I didn't think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I like that they added in different elements to the games, but also the concept of bringing in past victors as a way to punish Katniss for the rebellion, and also just the concept within itself of pitting past victors against each other was really interesting because they've all proven themselves to be very strong
Mm.
people.
And I feel like with this one, there's a lot more people that you like and really don't like, but I forget what his
Yeah.
name is. He's like the Playboy guy.
Finnick.
Yeah, Finnick. He starts off as like he's kind of an asshole, but once he's in
Yeah.
the games, I'm
You
like,
just
I kind of
wanna
like this
hate
guy.
him so
Yeah,
bad in the beginning because he's such a douche.
but like he ends up being a really chill guy, and I feel like with the first movie, it's like you either hate this person or you like this person.
I honestly find him even more likable in the books because you get more of his backstory that he was kind of pimping around the Capitol to get insider information. And I thought that just makes him a deeper, more likable character, but you also get more of the backstory with um what's her name? Annie?
Isn't she the one like absolutely hates the games?
No, no,
Oh,
no. You're thinking of Joanna.
yeah.
Annie's the one that Mags volunteered for
Oh,
that
yeah.
Finnick is in love with.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I like all those characters. I like Jeffrey Wright, who's like the scientist guy. He's the one that comes up with the idea about tying the wire to the
Nuts
tree.
and bolts.
Nuts and bolts. I mean, I just like the characters overall. I mean, maybe because I just seen it recently, but I'm like, I feel like the character's a lot more memorable. And even though I
Yeah.
don't know the goddamn names because it's so complicated.
Well, you also get more of their backstory, and they make you go through this journey of hating them at first and then liking them. Like, Joanna was not a very likable person. And then you're like, well, you know what? She's kind of fair for that.
Mhm. Yeah, and I just feel like this movie is like the first one, but like way better. That's how I feel about it.
There's more action, there's more characters that you care about. Because I feel like in the first movie, you care about Katniss, Peeta, sorta maybe Prim, just because she had to volunteer for her, and Rue.
Hmm.
Everyone else, who gives a shit if they live or die? It's
Right.
very low stakes.
Yeah.
You kind of go in expecting that the two main characters are gonna make it out alive, whether or not you've read the book before that. You kind of know that they're not gonna be killed off. So it doesn't feel the same amount of tension as the second one does.
Yeah. And the build-up is nice because the games literally don't start till the middle of the movie. Like, and there's an hour
Yeah.
and a half of games. And then the movie just ends, which I like because it's just like, spoiler alert, but every episode we have is a spoiler alert, so I'm in shocker. Once the twist happens where the games were kind of rigged or like people were trying to get Katniss out in the first place, there's one scene with her in the ship, and then she wakes up with her shitty boyfriend named like Gravy or
Gale.
whatever. Yeah, Gale.
Fuck Gale. Let me just say, I'm a Gale hater. If you are Team Gale, you're just wrong. You're wrong. Your opinion is invalid. You're wrong. Gale sucks.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. He just goes around feeling sorry for himself all the time. He doesn't give a shit that Katniss has severe PTSD. He's like, you kissed another guy. He doesn't care that her life is at stake if she doesn't put on a show that she's in love with Peeta. He's like, poor me.
Yeah.
Feel bad for me.
And something I actually like about this movie, it's not really what we're going to be talking about, but I feel like it's a good portrayal. I mean, I shouldn't say good portrayal. I think it has an interesting parallel to like celebrities' lives, where some celebrities might build stuff up for publicity, for maybe projects or something like that. But you truly don't know what's going on with them, how they're feeling, because everything looks great with the Hunger Games people. Like, oh yeah, all these people are so
Yeah.
great. They all have a lot of money. They can't be depressed, but it's just like they have problems too, like everyone else.
Well, I liked in the beginning when Katniss and Peeta are seeing each other again for the first time in a while, and they have to film something together, acting like they've been together this whole time and they're so in love and they're living in Victor's village and everything's great. And when they actually see each other, they're like super emotionally detached.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the camera turns on, Katniss like pounces on him and acts like they're so in love, and the lights are so heavily on them that you don't even see the dumpster fire of the places they're living in behind them.
Yeah.
It also makes me think of Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello. People were like, fake relationship is just for publicity. And I remember that was such a big thing when they first got together because people for some reason cared whether or not it was for attention or real life, which, why do you care so much? Who cares?
I don't know. But I feel like the movie is kind of an interesting, like, it has like some interesting parallels to that.
Yeah.
I also like the scene where everyone is lined up and they're talking about the games. Peeta says like Katniss is pregnant, but like every character has their own reason and comes up with their own excuse to why the games shouldn't go on.
Yeah. And then they all raise their hands together, holding hands. I love that scene.
Yeah.
I
But-
love that even though they know that they're going to be pitted against each other to slaughter one another within the matter of a couple days, they still know that in a way they're all fighting for the same team. Which is a really interesting concept, is they have some sort of unity while also knowing that they need to be able to dehumanize one another in order to kill each other.
Yeah, what I also think it plays into, like, some people are in the mission and some people just think it's like the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of partially plays into it, but I agree with that.
Yeah, not everyone was in the know about the plans because Katniss and Peeta kind of picked their team, and their mentors were also behind figuring out who the best allies for them would be.
Yeah.
And everyone else was just there.
Right. Also, I really like the costume design in the film in general is really
Yes.
great. I mean, one thing that's like really great about this world, I think everything looks super plain except for like the capital district.
Yeah.
But then these outfits they wear, they like stand out compared to these like depressing ass like settings. I think it's really interesting that they like let the costumes pop and the costumes do a lot of the storytelling in those segments.
Yeah, I've always been really interested by films that portray both a very um depressing like olden days style of living and a futuristic style of living happening at the same time.
Yeah. And I think the director of this does a good job of like handling that world, making it feel realistic, but also giving it that flair of like this is the future, but like this world sucks ass.
Yeah.
And to go back to it, the David Yates Harry Potter movies, which you know I've talked about you personally. I don't really like those movies. It's not that I don't like them. I just don't really like his direction because everything is just so plain.
Yeah, it's kind of boring.
Yeah, everything might as well just be shot in black and white because they have everyone wear the same
Yeah,
outfits. It's
they're
just
not super visually appealing.
and like I don't. I'm not going to get too much on a tangent. I'm just about to go on a Harry Potter tangent. I'm going to stop myself. Uh, but I feel like these movies they are kind of similar to those David Yates Harry Potter movies, except like there's actual direction going on. There's like choices with like the costuming and how the different settings.
There's a heavier use of visuals in the storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, but what else? What do you like about this movie? Have you thought about something?
Well, like I was saying, I like the contrast between this like depressing realistic view of what's going on in contrast to the capital and how people outside of the capital probably look at the capital and they're like what lavish wonderful lives and they really don't know what's going on with the victors cuz they're being dressed up to look really extravagant um while they're actually suffering all the time and they're fucking miserable. So I think that contrast is really interesting. And something I really like about this movie versus last one, which we kind of covered, um, is the fact that they are all fighting on the same team while also having to slaughter each other.
Right.
It's interesting to see this contrast between they're wanting to come together to stop the games because none of them want to fight to the death, except for that bitch who got her teeth
Oh
sharpened.
yeah.
She for sure wanted to be there, but everyone else, I mean, she was a part of the people on stage that all raised their hands in unity, though. So, in some way, I guess she agreed with the movement to end the games. But at the same time, there was only so much they could care about one
Hmm.
another, knowing that they would have to view each other's as a stepping stone towards their win.
Yeah, and I think the movie does a good job kind of uh shifting your expectations because like when uh Woody Harrelson, forget what the character's name is like this is the rundown of everyone that's gonna be here. It's like they're like, this guy is super cool. He loves killing people, and it's like they you get in with the expectation like this is gonna be like the all star game of the
Yeah,
Hunger Games, but like in actuality, almost no one wants to be there.
yeah. I think it's interesting that Katniss, in a way, got to pick her team. Um, because it's weird to think like I need to have allies, but in order for me to win, those allies need to die. So you want to pick someone to be on your team that's going to be tough, but not tougher than you.
Yeah,
But she had to like if she didn't have Finnick as an ally, then Peeta would have died.
right. Yeah. And I like when he's like, if I wanted to kill you both, I would have just done it already. So I like how it's like that trust kind of built in.
And I really like the tension of being able to see things from Katniss's point of view of having no idea what's going on with the rebellion, like not even realizing that she's leading a movement in that moment
Hmm.
and just trying to make sure that PETA's the one to survive and viewing her allies that were picked as allies for her as enemies and perceiving different things they were doing in a different light than PETA's seeing. And she's kind of wondering, like, why is PETA cool with these people?
Yeah.
I like the tension of those moments because it's like, is PETA in on something against Katniss?
Mm.
And why does he trust these people? Why should we trust that these people aren't going to turn against them? And being able to see, like, Joanna cutting the tracker out
Yeah.
of Katniss's arm, we're like, oh shit, like Joanna's going to kill her right now.
Yeah, that's
And
what I
then
was
when
thinking
she
too.
doesn't, it's like, what? What's going on?
Right. Yeah. I also think it does a good job building the world up before the games happen because you really understand the ramifications of the games. Because in the first one, it's just everyone's watching them. Everyone's kind of rooting for people in the district. Kind of just feels like a Super Bowl game. It just kind of feels like, which kind of leads into another criticism I have of this movie, but I'll get to that. The world building of the rebellion, Katniss's importance to the rebellion and symbolizing. So, like when the stormtroopers go into, or the peacemakers, whatever you want to call them, they're stormtroopers.
Stormtroopers.
They go into District 13 and start like throwing shit around and like beating people up, beat Gale up. And then when I forget what district it is, it's like Ruse district, and like the guy puts his thing up and then he gets shot like right in the
Yeah.
head. So I like seeing the impacts of the first movie, and it kind of heightens the games going into the new ones.
Yeah, I like the build up as well in showing how Katniss is pretty emotionally detached. And in some ways she has no emotion, um, and is trying to separate herself from any reminders of the games. And in other ways she becomes easily very distressed.
Mhm.
And it's interesting to see that play out and to see how it affects her, to see the ramifications of her winning the last game.
Right. Yeah. What? So to kind of bring up the criticism I have, it feels like the games sometimes have like no impact because the only person you see watching it is Snow and the game maker. And it just kind of seems like the games are like disconnected. Doesn't feel like anyone cares about it. It just kind of feels like Snow's revenge, which I guess that it is, but like the Hunger Games are a much bigger deal than just Snow.
Yeah, and we do see more of that in the first movie. Like, I think we see, I'm not 100% on this, but I think we see Rue's family react to her die on screen.
Yeah, you know. But yeah, so do you have any other things to talk about in the movie? Let me check my notes and see if I had anything else to say what I liked.
Oh, I liked how the very opening scene of the movie, that hunting scene, kind of sets the stage for this being the aftermath of the first games.
Hmm.
When Katniss and Gale are out hunting and she thinks the deer or whatever is a person that
Yeah,
she shot. Just being able to see how she hasn't been able to get out of that fight or flight state of mind really sets the stage for the second games.
yeah, I agree with that. That was one of my notes is that I like that opening scene, but I kind of wanted to save it because that's a good example of PTSD. Now, what is PTSD?
Why don't you tell me what you know about PTSD first?
Uh, PTSD to me is reliving bad experiences or seeing things that were traumatic for you. So like I know a lot of people in the military have PTSD because of stuff they did, and it kind of wasn't really their choice because they were kind of forced to do it because they're in the military. Um, so I would say, I mean, obviously clarify, not just people in the military can get PTSD. You can get
That
PTSD,
is the
right? Like
most
that's a,
common portrayal
yeah,
that you see in media, so it makes sense that that's the first thing you think
yeah.
of.
Just needed to clarify that. I know it's not exclusive to people in the military, but that's how I start to associate with, and it's like reliving those bad experiences, and like it kind of puts you in that fight or flight more readily than like somebody who doesn't suffer from that.
I would say that's a pretty accurate depiction of what you would see in popular media. Um, but a little critique of the way that PTSD is portrayed. I think it harps too much on the reliving part
Mm.
because oftentimes people with PTSD aren't getting flashbacks. I believe it's more common to have PTSD without flashbacks than with. Um, and it's more of things are triggering me and I can't really identify why sometimes. So, it's not like Katniss, well, in this example is like actually no, because she does in the movie. Let's say somebody got into a car accident and it was flipped over and they felt really trapped and it was terrifying. They may not be consciously thinking back to that moment when that memory is triggered, but their brain goes back to the state of mind it was in
Mm.
when that accident happened. So maybe it's something as simple as they feel trapped in a situation and their brain is like, the last time I felt trapped in a situation, I almost died.
Mhm.
So it puts them in that fight or flight, and they may or may not be able to identify why, but they're not always just consciously reliving that memory.
That makes sense.
I think there's too much of that that's in popular media because oftentimes that's not the way it goes.
I think it's just because of visual portrayal.
Yeah,
I think it leads to more when you say it in media. I think it leads to a more interesting storytelling to see
that's
visually.
true. And it's easier to depict that than the more common symptoms like the intrusive thought symptoms. And I'll give you a basic breakdown of what it takes to get diagnosed with
Mm.
PTSD, what the symptoms look like. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories of different kinds of symptoms you can have. And you need to have a certain amount in each category in order to qualify for a diagnosis. So the first category is exposure to actual or threatened death, serious injury, or sexual violence. So, I mean, kind of obvious
Yeah,
in this one.
yeah.
She kind of had to slaughter a bunch of people, so
Yeah.
and see people die and like seeing Rue die especially was really upsetting and traumatic for her.
Mm.
And the second category is presence of one or more of the following intrusion symptoms associated with the traumatic event. And intrusion symptoms are kind of like trying to think of how to word this. They're distressing thoughts that are obviously unwanted and cause distress. And some of the ones that come up in the diagnostic criteria are recurrent distressing dreams, dissociation, psychological distress, intense physiological reactions to cues that symbolize or resemble the trauma.
Hmm.
So, something that I think about in the Hunger Games is when Katniss and Peeta are giving the speech to Rue's district, and they go completely off script because it's very moving for both of them to have to see the consequences of the games that they were in and the real people that were affected by this girl's death. And Katniss says that she sees Rue everywhere she goes. She sees her in the flowers that she sees in her garden. She sees her in her little sister. Like she cannot escape thoughts about her.
Hmm.
So that's the intrusion symptoms that I see. Part C is persistent avoidance of stimuli associated with the traumatic events. which I think they do a good job showing with how much Katniss tried to separate herself from Peeta. Like, she did
Yeah.
not want anything to do with him because that was a constant reminder of her trauma
Right. Yeah.
and how she had to fake that relationship to survive. And so probably being with him in itself was a reminder of that trauma.
Well, the only reason why she even sees Peeta is because Snow was like I'm gonna kill you if you don't like
Yeah.
form this relationship and like try to stop this rebellion in some way.
And part D of the diagnostic criteria is negative alterations in cognitions and mood associated with the traumatic events beginning or worsening after the trauma. And some of the examples I highlighted that we see in Katniss include persistent and exaggerated negative beliefs or expectations about oneself or others or the world, like making generalized statements like, I'm bad, I can't trust anyone, I'm a dangerous person, stuff like that.
Mhm.
I think she definitely has that black and white thinking and thinks that she is to blame for things that were completely out of her control.
Right.
Um,
And I think also partly when I keep forgetting what his name is, but Woody Harrelson got picked for the games and then Peeta volunteered, she still blames Woody Harrelson. But it's
yeah.
like he can't do anything. Like, yeah, like I mean, he technically broke the promise, but like it's not his fault.
And he even explained to her, if he volunteers for me, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah,
I can't
exactly. Yeah.
stop him.
And she gets mad at him for it, even at the end of the movie, and it's like there was nothing that could have been
Yeah.
done.
Under the same category, persistent, distorted thoughts about the cause or consequences of the traumatic events that lead the individual to blame themselves or others. Again, like, she took blame that didn't belong to her and she blamed people that really had nothing to do with the events.
Mhm.
They also were just used as pawns in the
Right.
situation. There was
Yeah.
nothing that they could have done either. And another one is persistent negative emotional state. She, especially in the beginning, was very hostile, very detached. She wanted nothing to do with Peeta. She obviously was very miserable, justifiably.
Mhm.
Feelings of detachment or estrangement from others is another one of those symptoms.
Yeah. And
And
it's not even like she's attached with Gale either. But also
yeah,
Gale's an asshole, so
Gil is self-loathing and miserable and doesn't really care about her, in my opinion. We don't see him give a shit about her aside from how he is jealous,
yeah.
except when he goes to like the whipping post for her.
Hmm.
And the last one in this category that I see is persistent inability to experience positive emotions. So even when she's in a position where she could feel a little bit more happy about things, can't blame her for thinking
Yeah.
negatively.
Well, I mean, this world also like sucks. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to
I
find something
wouldn't want
happy.
to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to feel happy in that context either. And the last category of symptoms is alterations in arousal and reactivity associated with the traumatic events. So for Katniss, that means irritable behavior and angry outbursts with verbal or physical aggression. She definitely yells at people a lot in this movie.
Well, yeah, I forget what I think her name is Joanne. Like she gets on Joanne's case like on the beach and it was almost for like no reason.
Yeah. Which at that point, she's still thinking Joanna's the enemy. So kind of can't blame her
Yeah.
in that way because she's like, why is PETA associating with the enemy?
Yeah.
Reckless or self-destructive behavior is another one.
Hmm.
She definitely is not thinking rationally, which who could in that position?
Yeah.
With that amount of stress, who could be thinking clearly? And then the last one that I noticed in her in that category is sleep disturbances. We see her have nightmares and A scene that I really liked that shows this symptom well is when she has this nightmare that she meets this little girl who says, "You inspired
Oh
me to
yeah.
volunteer." And that's like the worst possible thing for her. She does not want to think that she inspired someone to volunteer for the games.
Yeah.
I really like that scene.
Yeah, that's a really good scene. I kind of forgot about that scene. And it's like, I mean, this happens in most dream sequences movies, but I like how you think like it's an actual real life thing because they're on tour consistently, so it wouldn't be shocking for
Yeah.
somebody to say that to her.
And for people to idealize her actions and think, "Oh, that's something that I should do."
Yeah,
And instead of looking at it as you're volunteering to potentially die, seeing it as a noble thing that you should want to do for
yeah,
someone else. And that being her worst nightmare.
mhm,
She doesn't want to be an inspiration. It really shows how she didn't want to be a symbol of the rebellion. She never wanted this fame or attention she got, and she feels a lot of guilt about it. In my opinion, she has survivor's guilt. Big time.
yeah. I could definitely see that. I am interested to see how like the Mockingjay movies kind of wrap this up. I want to see if like they continue with like the PTSD. Hopefully they don't drop it. I wouldn't imagine it because it's probably something that continues through the book too.
Yeah, they definitely don't drop it. And spoiler alert, it continues more in PETA
Hmm.
than in Katniss.
Interesting. Curious to see that. I wonder if he has PTSD from the Five Nights at Freddy's movie.
Something I think we should do in a future episode is talk about brainwashing because that happens in Mockingjay.
Okay. Interesting.
Mm.
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 Mm. Mm. Uh, yeah, I something I do wish the movie I did. Yeah, I wish. Yeah, something I wish the movie did was kind of show more of like Joanne's backstory and why she hates the game so much. Her name's Joanne, right?
Joanna.
Joanna. I want is kind of curious how much she hates the games. I
I
kind of want to know why.
think you get that more in Mockingjay.
Oh, okay, good to
Yeah.
know because I actually liked her character a lot. But
Yeah. I really like the characters a lot more in this movie. I like that you start off hating them, then they win over your trust, and you see that their feelings are justified, and then you're kind of on their team, and you're like, shit, well, now I don't want them to die either, but you're going into this knowing somebody here is going to die because that's the whole point of this. So is it going to be a character that I've grown to love?
yeah, definitely.
I think Mockingjay would be another good film to talk about, and it definitely develops all of the characters that we just begin to get to know in Catching Fire and makes us care about them even more, gives them more of a rich backstory.
Yeah. But is there anything else to add in terms of PTSD or anything like that? Or
It's important to note that PTSD can show up looking in many different ways, and the way it's portrayed in Katniss is it can be accurate, but also it doesn't have to look outwardly like it does for Katniss, for it to be valid, for the trauma to have been real. And um, oftentimes, with people who have PTSD, they're not having these waking up and screaming nightmares and flashbacks and the
Mhm.
things that are more visually impactful to show in a movie.
Yeah,
Oftentimes, people with PTSD suffer in silence and they may not be able to identify things that are triggering to them. They may be triggered out of nowhere, seemingly, and it may be harder for people to identify their thoughts and behaviors as as being related to trauma
Mm.
because they're not like screaming and talking about how it takes them back to the games and they're not having flashbacks and talking about having flashbacks. It may be more of an internal experience, but obviously that's not going to be shown in a movie. So just remember that even if someone's not having flashbacks, even if they're not having nightmares, their trauma is still real.
Yeah. I actually think after this discussion that this movie, for a blockbuster movie, does a pretty good job of like subtly doing the PTSD rather than like the in the face like flashback
Yeah.
and like the ear ringing, that fucking stupid ear ringing noise that I
Mhm.
hate so much. Like movies like always do that and like they like go in the shallow focus and everything is blurry and then it's out
Yeah.
of focus and this is stupid ear ringing because it's like, oh, that's just PTSD. But like this movie like
You get
has
a little bit of that in the scene with the Jabberjays where
yeah, I think
Katniss thinks Prim is screaming.
that's a little bit different. I'll give the movie some exception on that, but yeah, that is kind of like the more like outwardly like PTSD thing that I think you like a more common blockbuster would show. But like I think everything else besides that, and maybe besides the opening hunting scene, is pretty subtle.
Yeah. I do like how they touched upon the more subtle symptoms while also doing the ones that are sensational and visually appealing and more easily recognizable, like Katniss's emotional detachment and her difficulty in controlling her mood and irritability and how she's just trying to separate herself from anything related to the games, and that even means people that she cares about.
Right.
So I think it does a pretty good job, even though that's a lot of symptoms for one person to have. And oftentimes it doesn't look like that. Oftentimes people don't have that many symptoms.
Yeah.
But I like that it didn't just focus on the ones that are most interesting to see.
Mhm. And I'm sure this will probably be a topic we come back to on a different episode and talk about how a different movie portrays PTSD because PTSD is a pretty common thing to kind of go about in movies. So,
Yes.
but is that all? Is there anything else you want to cover, or
That's all I got.
cool? Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for listening.
Don't forget to follow us on everything.
Yep. Everything everywhere.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever the fuck it's called.
Yep. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're on Instagram.
YouTube.
We're on YouTube.
TikTok. We haven't posted anything on it, but we're on there.
We are on there. Well, there'll probably be something on there eventually.
And give us 5 stars.
Yeah. And also leave some comments. It'd be nice to get some interaction and see what people think about our
And
discussions.
see what you want us to talk about.
True. Yeah. I would hope we have a guest on sometime in December or January, so I'm hoping for that.
Guest star.
Guest star.
Very advanced podcasting for
Very
us.
advanced podcasting. Also, fun fact: most podcasts end after 7 or end at 7 episodes. You know
Wonder
what
why.
episode we're on?
This is 7.
8. So I think
Look at that.
because we got Shutter Island, To Die For, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Turtles All the Way Down.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
I'm trying to go in order.
Teeth.
Yeah, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Wait. Shutter Island, To Die For, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Turtles.
Mouth of Madness.
Oh, Mouth of Madness. Yeah, that's what it was. Mouth of Madness, and then Teeth.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
And then this. So I guess, yeah, this is our 8th episode. There you go.
Look at that.
Trying to think of our own episodes.
We made it.
We made it. So that means we'll be here forever. So.
Yep.
All right. Well,
as long as you give us 5 stars.
As long as you give us 5 stars and you leave comments and stuff like that.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. And next week, or next time, should we reveal it or should we wait?
Go for it.
We're gonna be talking about it's my pick. Big Disney princess person.
Big princess guy over
Big princess guy. So we will be talking about Beauty and the Beast. So
here. Woo.
it should be pretty fun.
And Stockholm Syndrome.
Stockholm Syndrome. Yep. As long as everything goes well.
Yep.
So we were definitely not going to talk about a political movie because originally this was supposed to be uploaded on the 2nd. May still be uploaded on the 2nd. Not the 2nd. The day before Election Day or something like that. It was supposed to be uploaded around then. We're going to pick some political movie. But we decided not to. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of political, I guess.
Yeah. You know what? We didn't lie.
We didn't. I also cut it out of the episode, so we didn't commit it to the promise.
Actually, when you think about it, at its core, it's a deeply political movie. So
Yeah. Should we change topics right now, midway through this, and talk about how this is a political espionage movie?
let's talk about overthrowing the government.
Anarchy.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Thanks for listening.
thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.